The Steamship Authority is a proud partner in many Falmouth community events, including town meeting coverage. And for good reason. Not only do we have a terminal and offices here, about 1/3 of our employees call Falmouth their home. We always work hard to serve our neighbors, friends, and the traveling public. We recently put 7 new electric buses into service at our Falmouth parking lots. Soon we'll be adding new vessels to our fleet, continuing work on our energy-efficient Woods Hole terminal buildings, and adding solar panels at our largest parking lot. At the Steamship Authority, we're serving the islands. And you.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their #1 goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Good evening. This is the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is Monday, May 5th, 2025 at exactly 6 o'clock. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, communications officers, AFSCME Council 93, Unit C.
So moved.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. I need a roll call vote, please.
Zelinski, aye.
Muscali, aye.
Goldstone, aye.
Brown, aye.
Taylor, aye, and the board will return to open session at 6:30. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. The board is just returning from executive session. It is Monday, May 5th, 2025, and it is exactly 6:32. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. 2 things, please. If you have cell phones, please silence them and double check that they are indeed silenced. And number 2, please notify me as the chair if you are making a video or audio recording of this open session meeting, and the placement and operation of this recording equipment should not interfere with the conduct of this meeting. Thank you, sir. Okay, I would ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and this evening we have 2 proclamations. And the first one is the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce 2025 Outstanding Citizen of the Year, Kathy Walrath, and I would ask Mr. Muscali to please read the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce annually acknowledges and pays tribute to a citizen of the town of Falmouth who has made a lasting positive impact on the community through participation in a broad scope of activity and whose commitment to the town has been demonstrated by many years of service beyond his or her profession. And whereas Kathy Walrath is an exceptional citizen of the town of Falmouth, Massachusetts, and New England, well known to all for her professional accomplishments and widespread contributions to the betterment of society. And whereas Kathy Walrath is a model citizen admired and esteemed for successfully balancing her devotion to family with years of integrity, tireless civic participation, and commitment to community progress. And whereas Kathy Walrath quietly works to build a better town, to build the physical and moral fiber of our youngsters, to support the active boards and committees so vital to all our interests, to preserve Falmouth open space, and to protect the values and rich character of Falmouth Cape Cod. And whereas Kathy Walrath's many accomplishments and contributions, singularly and collectively, are memorialized in the minds of those she has touched and chronicled on the pages of organizations across this town. and as she continues to make a difference in the town of Falmouth, we do herein declare this citizen is worthy of high praise and great recognition. And now, therefore, we, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Scott Zielinski II, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather M.H. Goldstone, as members of the Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, by the authority vested in us, do proclaim Kathy Walrath Falmouth's 2025 Outstanding Citizen of the Year. In witness whereof, we have set our hand and caused the great seal of the Town of Falmouth to be affixed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Ms. Walrath here?
I don't see her.
She is not. Okay, we will get that to her.
Well, I'll be at the chamber dinner on Thursday.
Perfect.
And I'll read it out there, too, as
Thank
well,
you, sir.
probably.
Okay, and our second one is the Town of Falmouth Juneteenth Committee Proclamation. I believe we have two members from the committee here with us, Mr. Charles Evan and Mr. Paul Glass. Thank you for being here with us. Mr. Brown.
Whereas Juneteenth, officially recognized as Juneteenth National Independence Day, commemorates June 19, 1865, the historic day when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and enforced the Emancipation Proclamation, marking the final liberation of enslaved African Americans. And whereas Juneteenth symbolizes the resilience, determination, and achievements of African Americans while serving as a reminder of our nation's complex history and the enduring pursuit of freedom, justice, equality. And whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts formally recognizes Juneteenth as a state holiday, and in 2021, the United States designated it as a federal holiday, further acknowledging its profound significance to American history and culture. Whereas the town of Falmouth is committed to fostering racial unity, promoting social justice, and ensuring that the lessons of history contribute to a more welcoming, inclusive, and equitable future for all residents. And whereas Juneteenth provides an opportunity for education, reflection, and action, allowing the Falmouth community to remember the past, celebrate the contributions of civil rights leaders, and work towards racial reconciliation and justice for all. And whereas Falmouth is dedicated to educating its residents about the importance of Juneteenth, including cultural traditions such as the libation ceremony, celebrating both past and present civil rights leaders, and promoting understanding and healing to strengthen racial relationships for future generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town of Falmouth does hereby recognize June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth Independence Day, and encourages all residents, businesses, and community organizations to observe this day with meaningful reflection, education, and community engagement. In witness whereof, we, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zielinski II, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, and Heather M.H. Goldstone, as members of the Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, do hereby affix our signatures and seal this 5th day of May, 2025.
Thank you.
Would one of you like to take this proclamation? Accept it? Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Any recognitions tonight from the board? Ms. Goldstone.
I would like to recognize the Falmouth Bike and Pedestrian Committee for a fabulous, organizing a fabulous reopening of the Bikeway event yesterday afternoon. The Bike Lab was there. There were cookies and water bottles and all sorts of great stuff, and it was an absolutely beautiful day to get out on our newly reopened bike path.
Nice.
Any other recognitions from the board?
I don't have
Thank you,
anything
Ms.
today.
Goldstone. Announcements. Any announcements from the board for the good of the public?
Well, just as I mentioned before, the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce will be having their annual dinner at the Seacrest on Thursday evening. I think it starts at 5 o'clock. So.
And the police gala is on Friday at the Seacrest. So I'll be there.
You'll be living at the Seacrest.
And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, May 17th, and since our Juneteenth committee members just left, Juneteenth celebrations kick off actually on May 17th with the Opal Lee Community Walk that morning. And then that evening is actually the Falmouth High School prom Prom after celebration, after prom celebration is still, to quote the email I got today, desperately seeking volunteers. Anybody who has some time to give on May 17th that evening. It is well worth it to keep our high school students safe and our roads safe that evening, and it's actually a really fun event. So,
It really is.
Anything else from the board? Is anyone here for public comment? Public comment, Mr. McCarty? Sure.
You're not
Not
the
happy
public.
with something.
Yeah. You're throwing me off here.
Peter McConaty, Director of Public Works. As the Director of Public Works, I'm responsible for the utilities in Falmouth and the safe drinking water of Long Pond, and for the project that has been, that creeped up on us since November of 2024, the Trotting Park Youth Baseball Fields. I just wanted to make I thought it was appropriate for me to make a few comments and some clarifications on the project, and as we're going forward, what to expect. So when the project first started, when we first became aware and the project first started for the town, for environmental cleanup was in late November. When we engaged, there was a lot of information that was coming out through the town, a lot of information that was being circulated, and we were getting emails at Public Works to answer some direct questions. It's very hard. If we don't have the information, we can't answer the questions. We don't know what we don't know. So what was created through the town is we made on the website, one spot where on the website all information will go for the field. So when we were getting those emails, we were directing people to that spot, to the website, to say when that information becomes available, it'll be up on the website. So what had happened is, obviously, the complex closed in early January when the soil samples were identified and it had lead in it and concentrations that were above the Mass DEP standards. So additionally, after that, Arcadis, who was our environmental consultant, they performed required groundwater sampling around the perimeter of the site to confirm the groundwater flow and the test of the groundwater for the MCL exceedances. 6 groundwater monitoring wells were installed. The wells confirmed that the groundwater does flow east in the opposite direction of Long Pond. One of the groundwater wells, monitoring well MW2, it detected tetrachloroethylene, and it basically ensured tetrachloroethylene is PCE. It was above the standard. PCE is widely used as industrial chemicals, and it's primarily used as solvents for dry cleaning and metal degreasing. There are other applications for that, but that's primarily where it was used. Typically, when the environmental, times when the environmental company goes out and installs groundwater monitoring wells, what happens is just the process of installing the wells, digging the ground, pushing the samples and the monitoring wells in, disturbs the ground, and it can create some false readings. Because that well had a high reading, much higher than the other readings, our consultant went out and performed a second round of samples. Those samples are due back. We should have the samples back by the end of this week, so we'll have clarification if that was just a random well with a bad number, or if the numbers were accurate. So, additionally, lead was the primary contaminant found at the landfill, and that was below detection limits, and all the
Mr. McConaty, your time has expired.
30 seconds?
Very
please.
quickly.
So the town did announce recently that they will be holding a community forum. It's on Thursday, May 22nd, and the forum will be held at 6:30 at the Lawrence School. It'll be town management, our consultant, and myself will be there to answer questions.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
just as a reminder, this matter was not on our agenda this evening, therefore, we will not have any discussion, debate on this issue. Thank you, Mr. McConaty. Okay, we're going to move into committee interviews, and our first committee interview is the Conservation Commission, Ronald Bowman. Mr. Bowman? Mr. Bowman, is there anything that you would like the board to know about you that is not in your application?
I think I got everything on there. Any
Okay.
questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Brown?
I have a comment that I appreciate having another contractor getting involved in regulatory matters, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm curious what prompted your,
Ms. Goldstone?
curious what prompted your application now.
I knew that they were needing members. I'm always downstairs in the building department, and like I said, I grew up in this town, born and raised. My family lineage goes back 6 generations. I grew up in the outdoors, hunting, fishing. I think it's very important that we protect and preserve this environment. So I thought and I also think it's very important to donate time, give back to the town. So I've done that in the past, so that's what I'm doing.
Thank you.
With that, Madam Chair, I'd be prepared to make a motion to appoint the applicant Ronald Bowman to fill an alternate member vacancy on the Conservation Commission with a term that expires June 30, 2026.
I'll second it. Third.
I'm sorry, Doug.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Warren.
Okay, Human Services Committee, William Huff. Mr. Huff, I'll ask you the same question. Is there anything that you need to share with us that it was not included in your application?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Does anybody not know Bill Huff? Okay. How about questions or comments for him, please?
I would just comment, thank you for coming back to getting more involved. Must have get a little bored with your time off, huh?
Looking forward to it.
I think you'll be a great fit for this committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Huff would be a wonderful addition to any commission or committee he would like to join.
Is that a motion, Mr. Muscali? Would you like to read it for me?
I will make a motion to appoint William Huff to a position on the Human Services Committee to fill the vacancy with a term ending, it could be June 2027 or 2025. Which would you prefer, Bill?
Let's go
27.
27. Term ending
Don't
June
give him
30,
the option.
2027.
Don't give him the option, Mr. Muscali.
We like to keep people happy here. Thank you, Bill. Yep, that's a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee. Kara Foley. Is Kara here? Welcome.
Thank you.
Same question. Is there anything in addition that you would like the board to know about you that was not in your application, Kara?
I don't think so.
Okay. Questions?
Comment.
Mr. Brown?
Ms. Foley participated in the working group, and she's very knowledgeable about the issues at hand, and I think she'd be a great addition to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Goldstone?
I guess I would be curious to hear your take, given your varied involvement, about, I don't know, if you had to come down as benefit or detriment to the town in terms of short-term rentals, where's the balance there?
Do I think that there's a balance? I do, but I think there's some more research that needs to be done. We need more information to wrap our arms around what's actually happening. So that was one of the things that we addressed in the working group, but I don't think we have a firm handle on what's actually going on.
Okay.
That's accurate. We identified the need
Mr.
for more
Brown?
information.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
Any other questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to appoint Kara Foley to the licensed realtor position on the short-term rental working group, or advisory committee, excuse me.
I'll second. Doug,
No, go ahead.
I'll second Ms. Goldstone's motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Let's get that group going up there now.
Okay, it is now 6:48. We can move into our public hearing. Mr. Zelinski for the notice, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of General Laws as amended that McGansett Circle, Inc., doing business as Daily Brew, has applied for an all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license to be exercised at 412 North Falmouth Highway, North Falmouth, Mass. A hearing on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, May 5th, 2025, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov. Per order of the Select Board, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zelinski II, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather M.H. Goldstone.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski. Attorney Clower, you are here as a representative for the applicant.
I am, that's correct.
Okay, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Again, for the record, Kevin Clower. I'm before you representing Megansett Circle, Inc.
Can you speak into that mic
Of
just
course.
a little bit, Kevin?
Yep, of
Thank
course.
you.
For the record, Kevin Clower. I am before you representing Megansett Circle, Inc., doing business as the Daily Brew. I'm joined tonight by the owners, Kathy and John Hickey, as well as Kathy's daughter, Sarah Hannon, who is the proposed manager of this establishment. I think we did a lot of the heavy lifting on this last week, but for the record, go over a few points. The Hickeys have owned and operated the Daily Brew in its current location in Katomet for the last 13 years. As we've discussed, this is relocating to 412 North Falmouth Highway. They just closed on the property this past week, and they're looking to open, relatively shortly. In addition to coffee and light fare, breakfast and lunch, they're seeking to provide alcohol with an all-alcohol liquor license. Again, the proposed manager is Sarah Hannon, who's worked at the Daily Brew since it opened. So she has 13 years of experience there and is TIPS certified. That was submitted in the file. This particular site, we have 144 seat restaurant, which is entirely interior. There is no proposed exterior dining or entertainment. They're looking to provide customers with options. Many would enjoy a beer or a cocktail with food. And it's really as an amenity to the customers there. This is really a family-friendly destination and is meant to be that, just that. In my opinion, this is a great addition to North Falmouth. I, along with Ms. Hannon or the Hickeys, would be glad to address any questions that the board might have. And otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Ms. Goldstone?
A question about Ms. Hannon's, the proposed manager's experience with liquor licenses. The 13 years of experience with Daily Brew. Other listed experience was not in the hospitality business.
Sure. She has waitressed at a number of locations, has not been a manager of record at a prior establishment, but you have to start somewhere.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Brown?
I would just say I see Ms. Hannah's application that she says that she has worked at the Daily Brew since 2012. There's a couple of other jobs in between. Just want to know that this will now be the full-time occupation, being the manager. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
And we've had that conversation about being on site for the majority of the time that it's open and the responsibility that comes with being a manager for a liquor license.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Any comments from the public on this application? Yes.
She's back for the sign.
I'm back again.
Yes, you are.
I, like my father, am the youngest, and I speak freely.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
the public record?
Nancy
Thank you.
Weiner, Bizzaneri.
Thank you.
I am Bill and Lee Weiner's daughter, and my sister Terry is here also. Ever since the last meeting, we have had the opportunity to meet the Hickeys in person, and they have been very gracious in inviting us back into the lounge to see what they're doing, and also extending if there was anything special that we wanted from the lounge. They offered it to us, which was very, very nice of them. So I do want to say that, once again, I think my parents would be very pleased with this operation. I think that they would fully support the music. They would also support having the license. My father went through a lot when he went to a year-round license, and back in that day, it took a lot to get a year-round license. I think it will enhance the property and will bring continuity to it. So I'm hoping that you will okay this and give them that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, ma'am.
Zelinski?
What's your impression of Miss Hannon?
In little that I've known her, she has been very open, very down to earth, very friendly, and I am impressed with the business that they have had success in for the last 13 years. I can see that they are doing a lot in the lounge, and I'm impressed. with what she's doing so far. I think this will help with, like I said, with the music venue and having a license as they go later into the evening. That would be a big plus. And this establishment has been in business since 1938 and has always been a lounge. So I think that would be a definite plus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any other public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the
So
hearing.
moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion amongst the board?
Move approval.
Madam Chair, you want me to read you got it?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the application for the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license, Megansett Circle, Inc., doing business as Daily Brew at 412 North Falmouth Highway as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time.
Okay, we're going to move right into business, and we have our district attorney here with us.
10.
Commission approach with a copy of my annual report.
Like them?
Thank you for distribution. I have
Certainly.
copies there.
Okay?
Thank you.
I want to stick around.
Again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. I realize you have quite a full agenda. I reviewed it, so I'll keep my remarks under 10 minutes. As you know, I try to come before you. I do come before you. This time, every year, this is my third time presenting to this board with an update.
Just introduce yourself, please, just for people at home.
Technicality. My name is Rob Gallibois. I am the district attorney for Cape Cod and the islands. So there are 5 topics that I briefly wanted to talk about tonight, and again, I promise to keep it under 10 minutes, about what we've been doing for the past year since I last appeared before you. About 6 weeks ago now, we launched a new program called CERT, Child Emergency Response Team. And what it is, it's a collaborative effort between our office, prosecutors and victim witness assistants, our law enforcement partners, of course, as well as DCF, or the Department of Child and Family Services, and Children's Cove, where we conduct our forensic interviews and examinations of our most vulnerable victims. It's led by the chief of our Child Protection Unit, Courtney Scalisi. And what happens is whenever we become aware of a physical or sexual assault upon a child, that team is notified to try to begin, try to fully investigate the matter as quickly as possible and provide the necessary resources to our victim and the victim's family in as much of real time as we possibly can. Since this launched about 6 weeks ago, Courtney has conducted 2 trainings here on the Cape. Each training had north of 60 attendees, so we're feeling pretty confident that it's off to a pretty good start, and I'm looking forward to coming back next year to report back how the program's been doing for the past year.
May I ask a question about the program? So, school teachers, counselors, social workers, they are all mandated reporters.
They are.
So they report to DCF.
Mm-hmm.
And then does DCF notify your office? I'm wondering about the connection between your office and this team and the schools.
Okay, so depending on which school district you're speaking to, we have 3 district courts here in Barnstable County and 1 on each island. So wherever the appropriate district court is for that particular event, the assistant district attorney and the victim witness assistant for that particular area would be notified first. Upon initial review, depending on the severity, it may get reviewed by a superior court prosecutor. It may stay at the district court level. But what happens is that connection, if you will, is practically instant under this model that we've just created.
Perfect. Thank you.
I also wanted to talk about human trafficking. Last year when I came before you, I explained that we had received a grant of just about $100,000 from the Office of Grant and Research. And what we did with the funds at that time is we conducted a series of trainings, a total of 4. 2 here in Barnstable County, 1 over on Nantucket, and 1 on Martha's Vineyard. And we provided training services for law enforcement folks, for hospitality industry, as well as the transportation industry. After that year, we got back together to say, okay, what can we do next? And we put together a proposal to run a statewide conference. The Office of Grant and Research accepted that proposal. They gave us another $100,000. We had this 2-day statewide conference just last month in April over in Hyannis. We had over 200 registered attendees on each day. We had 38 speakers from all across the country that, again, addressed folks in the law enforcement industry, hospitality, transportation, as well as secondary education. While it was we had national speakers, it was nice to see we had some local speakers, including Detective Katie Parachi from the Barnstable Police Department. She's kind of considered the guru, if you will, in Barnstable County for human trafficking investigations. We had Dr. Abigail Judge and Sergeant Mark Sullivan from Boston PD's HEAT program. We also had the entire 5-member team, human trafficking team from the U.S. Attorney's Office come down and do a presentation, as well as U.S. Attorney herself, Leah Foley, came down to introduce her team. The members of Office of Grant and Research also attended both days. They were kind of giving us a little bit of a test, I think. We received a lot of nice words after the conference was done, so we're going to be regrouping in the next couple weeks to see, okay, what might we do next year. So there was a very brief conversation of maybe trying to do some sort of national type conference here in the Cape, but we're not quite sure we're ready for that undertaking, so I'll report back next year. I do want to talk about fentanyl for a moment. When I first came before you back in 2023, I explained to you that I instituted a new policy in the office. Anyone that was ever charged in trafficking in fentanyl, those are your business dealers, if you will. Those are the ones that are pushing the poison for profit. Once they were charged and brought before the court for arraignment, we were looking to hold them without bail. There's a very powerful statute referred to as the dangerousness statute that allows prosecutors to go forward and try to hold them without bail. Before I was district attorney, some of you might know that I was in private practice. I represented a lot of folks that were engaged in this line of work, if you will, and I can let you know, and it's certainly no secret, that they would prepare for the rainy day for when that time came that they were going to get charged and have the bail money, so to speak, set aside. With this particular statute, the dangerousness statute, there is no bail. You are held from jump throughout the pendency of your case. This was something that was going on throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I bared witness to it while I was practicing, but it wasn't happening here in the Cape and the Islands. So literally, the day that I was sworn in, we started this. We now have some data to look at since I first took office. In 2023, the non-fatal overdoses were down 10%, and fatal overdoses were down 7%. We now also have 2024 numbers. 2024 non-fatal overdoses are down 25% from 2023, and fatal overdoses are down 35% from 2023. Now, I can't sit here right now and draw a direct correlation between my policy and those particular numbers I just gave to you. However, I think you can draw a pretty reasonable inference that this policy of holding these folks from jump, it does appear to be working. So I wanted to provide that update, and I'll certainly provide next year's numbers when I come before you again. Many of you might be aware that just 2 weeks ago now, Cape Cod Healthcare had a grand opening for their new, they're referring to it as a tower, big new addition that they put on to the hospital where they're going to be doing their cancer treatment. And last summer, in the beginning of last summer, we learned that to get the permits from the Department of Public Health for that tower, they needed to invest in the community to which they serve, and certainly invest a certain amount of sums with various stakeholders. So with this information, I went back to my team, and we kind of started kicking around some ideas. What could we possibly do to put together an application for some grant funds? We talked about CIMS, Critical Incident Management Systems. And what that is, it's a database that 14 out of our 15 police departments here in the Cape utilize, including the town of Falmouth. And what happens is, if someone has an overdose experience here in Falmouth, the officer is supposed to go back to the police station, enter that information. And I'm just going to draw an example here. I'm not picking on any towns. If an individual from the town of Hanover came down, say, went to Hyannis and had an overdose experience, when the officer goes back to the police station and enters that information into this CIMS database, it's the folks where this person came from in Hanover, the resources that that person is generally used to from the Hanover area should be notified quickly, so as close to real time as possible. So we thought we're strategizing, how can we possibly reinvigorate this CIMS database and perhaps even expand it? So this literally did start. It's one of those situations on a restaurant napkin. I'll say restaurant, not bar, because I'm being recorded right now, but I'll say restaurant. And I happened to bump into CEO Mike Loff at a restaurant and his senior vice president. We started taking some notes. That napkin literally led to a 10-page single-space proposal. Meeting after meeting with Cape Cod Healthcare grew to meetings with the Department of Public Health and then joint meetings with the Department of Public Health and Cape Cod Healthcare. After about a 9-month stretch, we were told we were being awarded these grant funds. It's $250,000 a year for the next 4 years, or $1 million. What we propose to do with that money is hire a full-time employee to work with our area police departments to make sure that information is being put in a timely fashion. We want to try to expand the services to that 15th town here on the Cape, as well as to the 6 police departments that I have on Martha's Vineyard and one on Nantucket. We're also looking at the database itself. While right now it's used is used exclusively for substance use disorder matters, there's room for opportunity to grow it and include perhaps interpretation services, housing needs, and possibly wellness matters as well. So I'm truly looking forward to coming back to you a year from now. This program should be up and running by the end of the summer through our office. So by the time I come back here next spring, we look forward to having some exciting updates for you. And finally, I'd like to talk about one last topic. Every single month, detectives across the Cape gather for a monthly meeting. It's hosted by the Harwich Police Department. And essentially, it's a roundtable conversation where the detectives just go around the room, share information, try to bolster each other's investigations. And while I try to attend these meetings as often as possible, what you would typically hear from the first 80% of my tenure so far is that they'd talk about B&Es into cars, B&Es into seasonal homes or vacant buildings. Until I started to notice something pretty much late spring, early summer last fall. Everyone was talking about elder fraud, all the way around the table, month after month. So last fall, I started asking for some data. Could you please get me some 2023 numbers and year-to-date 2024? So I can get a true sense of how rampant is this. I know the Barnstable numbers off the top of my heart. In that time frame that I just described, Barnstable had 397 cases or calls for elder fraud. Of that, 257 made their way into a police report. Of that, 13 cases were charged, or about 5%. So what we did is we got together as an office to see what we could possibly do to try to bolster or assist our law enforcement partners with their investigations. We got with the Cape delegation. We put together a package that essentially outlines our wish to hire 2 forensic examiners. We're thinking of certified public accountants that are kind of on the tail end of their career. They made their money. Now they want to engage in some public service. 2 additional prosecutors, of course, to prosecute the cases, and 2 victim witness assistants to work with the victims in the case. The grand total comes to about $580,000. So we reached out to every council on aging I have in my district. I have 20. We've reached out to every police chief. I have 22. They are now beginning to submit letters of support of our request. If you've been following, tomorrow or Wednesday is going to be a big day when the Mass Senate drops their budget, and any amendments to their budget will be due, I believe, by Friday. So it's a little bit of a time crunch at the moment. We've also been in conversation with Cape Cod 5. We're expecting that they're going to be submitting a letter of support of our efforts, and I did this with the town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Council last week, and the vice president of the council offered, hey, would you like a letter of support from us? And of course I said yes, so that's something they're going to be voting on in their next meeting. So with that said, I guess I come with an ask. If I get some particulars through your chair about our proposal, I'd ask that you would consider, perhaps by your next meeting, to support our efforts, because everything helps.
Thank you. Questions from the board? I'll go with Mr. Muscali and then Mr. Brown.
Those numbers with respect to reductions of lethal, non-lethal overdoses,
Yes.
in addition to your policy, which I'm sure had something to do with it, what would you say some of the other contributing factors to those reductions would be?
Availability of Narcan, which is obviously a really good thing. So that's why I can't, connect the numbers directly or anything like that. All I can suggest, I truly think you can draw a reasonable inference that our for lack of a better description, hardline policy on these pushes of fentanyl is taking a positive effect.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
A couple of years ago, when you came, you identified a real shortfall in your own budget. And I wondered if you've been able to be successful at increasing that, and what are your expectations for this year?
Touching a nerve, sir. So for those of you that may not have been here, just by brief, if I could give an overview. When I first took office, I learned something. The Northwest District Attorney's Office comprises of 2 counties, Hampshire County and Franklin County. I happen to have 3 counties, with Barnstable, Dukes, and Nantucket. The annual population for my district and the annual population for the Northwest District is almost identical, hovers right around 260,000 people. Our population obviously swells in the summer to upwards of 1 million. When you compare the 2 districts, they have 4 district courts, I have 5. My criminal docket cases, I think it's roughly 15% higher than their criminal cases, so meaning we do more work. At that time, sir, my budget was $5.5 million. Their budget was $8.5 million. As I'm speaking right now to you, my budget is somewhere around $6.45 million, somewhere around 6.45, and they're around 10.4. So it's really frustrating that I get to see this district be able to perform a level of services that I can't even come anywhere near. So I've had conversations with the delegation. As you might imagine, looking at upwards of a 60% increase in my budget is quite challenging to get. However, I know they are working as hard as they can possibly work to try to close the gap between our district and that district.
So you might need 2 letters of support.
That's an eye-opener.
I would greatly appreciate it. I can get you tomorrow the specific numbers that I'm talking about from the time I took office through present day, through what the proposal is, through the governor's budget and the House budget for the next fiscal year. And candidly, it keeps widening.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? I just have one other comment, and that is I see you have the Keep Them Coming program.
Yes.
I'm really happy to see that that's still alive and well. I worked with that for years.
Okay. I want to give a
in the
shout out to
schools.
Katie Green in my office. She does a great job with it.
Huge.
Yes.
Anything else from the board?
How's the DA and us meetings going?
That's going really well. Kelly Quealy, if I can, when I took office, I promised that I would do 2 things. I would create a new position called the Community Engagement Officer, whose main responsibility is to be in our communities every single day. I did that. Her name is Kelly Quealy. The task that I asked her to establish was create a new community coalition called the DA and Us, and that has been up and running. I think they've had 2 meetings, here in Falmouth. And she's trying to meet quarterly. We set up a chapter in every single town across my district. And she meets quarterly with them, just try to keep her finger on the pulse, because every Cape Town's a little bit different. They have their own particular experiences. The police do a marvelous job trying to do what they can, but we're just trying to supplement their efforts to try to stay attuned as to what's going on.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next meeting is May 19th, and anything that you would want to get to us would need to get to the town manager at least a week before.
Okay,
Okay.
You'll have it in the inbox by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
And Madam Chair, we'll be asking the town manager to prepare a letter of support in that regard. Is that his direction?
It sounds like he will be sending information, and I'll take a look at it when we get it.
Okay.
And then it would come back to the board on the 19th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to move into the presentation, an update on Barnstable County's activities programs. Michael Dutton, County Administrator. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you, Board, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Just by way of introduction, I've been a very quiet Falmouth resident since 2013. That's what happens when you're a Falmouth resident.
Did you say quiet?
I was quiet.
That's you said quiet, the mic went
Until
off.
now. Prior to that, I was on Martha's Vineyard for about 20 years. I've got over 20 years of municipal leadership experience. I've also worked in banking, healthcare, been a private practice attorney. I drove a forklift. I don't know what else I could tell you. But I have done a lot of work statewide advising town managers on sort of best practices. I've done a lot of advising on forms of government. For the last 12 years before coming to Barnstable, I was in the town of Bridgewater, which is one of 13 towns which is actually a city form of government. So So with that, I took the Barnstable job, and it certainly hasn't been as boring as I thought it could be. So I will, this evening, if okay with the board, I'll do 4 things. I'll just outline the role of the county as it's described in the charter. I'll give you an idea or some sense of what we do in terms of regional services, and give you an update on ongoing issues, and then finally where I think the county is going from here. So I'll start with it. The charter, for those that don't know, the charter, the Home Rule Charter was adopted in 1988. It is largely unchanged since then. There have been some tweaks. Obviously, 1988 predates my presence on the Cape, but my understanding is that charter was pretty much adopted fairly quickly in order to preserve Barnstable County as a county. At that point, in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of the counties statewide were being dissolved. That was a big state initiative. So there are 6 counties that actually remain, all in the southeast sector, and Barnstable by far does more in terms of government services than the other 5 existing counties. So the Barnstable County Charter says that Barnstable will provide, quote, the means and structure to deal with regional issues, which I always thought to deal with sounds very kind of informal, but anyway, the means and structure to deal with regional issues which transcend the existing boundaries of municipal governments. So we were designed to be regional. I realize, spent 20 years on the Vineyard, and that R word was a really hard thing for people to swallow on the town level. But really, regional government, and I'll get to this a little bit later, regional government is here to provide the services that you need. You tell us what you need, and we'll go out and try to provide it. So anyway, that sort of structure and that sort of mission for the county is very simple, but it is purposefully quite vague. And as I say, allows towns to tell us what they need and allows us to try to provide those services. So what services do we currently provide? So I'll break this down into 4 different areas. First being environmental. I think this board probably knows a little bit about our alternative septic system test center at Joint Base Cape Cod. We are one of the most sought after testing sites in the country. We have very large nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations wanting to come to that location in order to test alternative septic designs and technologies. We have the AmeriCorps Cape Cod program, which I'll talk about a little more in a moment. Does a lot of natural resource work in the towns and does a lot of education in terms of natural resource planning and education. We've got coastal floodplain planning. We've got coastal resilience work. We have landfill monitoring. We've prepared for new regulations or upcoming DEP regulations requiring PFAS testing of capped landfills. And I'll get to the lab work and the PFAS testing in a minute. We support municipal shellfish propagation. We do joint bids to provide low-cost seed stock for the towns to seed their various shellfish beds. In terms of education and training, we have 4-H youth services, nutrition education, entomology. Our major focus, obviously, for the entomologists is tick-borne illnesses, tick-borne disease. And we work closely with the Vineyard Study Group in order to provide information on tick-borne diseases specifically. We provide fire training, mostly mobile training operations, mobile training opportunities. We take the equipment, the training equipment, to towns in order for the towns to use that for training. Now, why is this important to the towns? Because it drastically reduces the amount of your fire department's overtime budget. That is a killer for most towns. You are required to provide certain fire training, and you also, as a best practice, provide a lot of fire training for your firefighters. this is an opportunity to provide that training either while on duty or in a way that mitigates the need for a lot of overtime expense. So overtime expense can really kill town budgets. We realize that, and so this has been a particularly popular fire training, particularly popular program with the chiefs all over Cape Cod. We do food safety. We sponsor food safety certificate courses. We do hazardous waste. The county runs hazardous waste collection days, several of which are in Falmouth on a which I've used on a year-to-year basis. We run the Master Gardeners program through our horticulture program. There are about 250 participants in the Master Gardeners program. We have a Human Rights Academy that educates students Cape-wide. And we have, important to the Cape, Medicare counseling, the SHINE program. Last year we ran about 8,000 seniors through the SHINE education program. The actual program runs mostly through the councils on aging in each town, but the county does support counseling at the county complex in Barnstable Village. So another topic, health and wellness. As you probably know, we do beach monitoring in conjunction with a county lab, in conjunction with the DA. It's always hard to follow the DA. I've done it twice now. So in any case, we do have child sexual abuse services that does work very closely with the DA's office. Children's Cove is the name of that program. It's not something that that's a great high visibility program, but it is critically important to the Cape's, obviously the DA's office and the police departments on the Cape. We do public health nursing. We provide immunization programs as one of our most popular services, as a matter of fact, and it provides a cost-effective, convenient option for those seeking vaccinations, including those without insurance. We do infectious disease monitoring. I don't think I need to talk about that. We've gone through 5 years of dealing with that. We also run an Ask a Public Nurse program, and we do that through the Cape's food pantries, and they try to place public nurses on site so that people using the public food pantries can ask medical questions and check vitals, whether blood pressure or blood sugars and so on. One of our most important services, I talked about this a few minutes ago, Water Quality Lab. We provide water testing services for all the Cape towns at below cost rates. I'm also happy to report we implemented and tested and certified new equipment which provides PFAS testing. My understanding is we're one of only 5 labs statewide that offer PFAS testing. We also provide analytic services to private well owners, private drinking well owners. We also do testing of waters around shellfish harvesting areas, ponds, lakes, and we do wastewater sampling, testing from wastewater samples that are taken from the Mass Alternative Septic System Test Center. We do swimming pools, doing any number of different things at town request, and as I mentioned before, we're testing leach that comes out of the landfills, capped landfills across the board. So my last topic is regional initiatives. Emergency planning. So Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning Committee is a creation of the county, and it serves not to supplant or take the place of the town's regional emergency planning, but it serves to allow a free flow of communication among the towns and between the towns, so that we can make sure when we have a natural disaster or a man-made disaster that we can be utilizing the resources of every town in the most optimum way possible. We also manage the Cape Cod Medical Reserve Corps, And as we all get older and as the Cape population gets older, I can tell you it's more and more challenging to find volunteers for the Cape Cod Medical Reserve Corps. So if anybody has a medical history and is interested in volunteering, I'll be happy to take that call. I think one of the items that this board probably knows very well, Barnstable County Dredge, is an operation that really, even though they've got a limited window, the operation itself, the planning and the permitting and the efforts go on year-round. Over the 26 years of the dredge's operation, we've removed about 2.5 million cubic yards of dredge material, most of it high-quality sand. Something like 98% of the dredge spoils get to be put back onto the beach, probably where they came from, but it allows beach renourishment. One of my sort of pet projects in the upcoming year is to try to establish for towns what the economic benefit is of dredging or of the Barnstable County dredge. You've got a boating community that relies on the dredging, Great Pond, Green Pond. We did another one recently in Falmouth. And that's, that ensures that your boating community, including fishing community, can get in and out of your harbors. Without that, it becomes pretty problematic. Your boaters and vacationers and fishermen are going to go elsewhere. So that is one of the benefits, the economic benefits. We also, there's an economic benefit to the shellfish community. There's an economic benefit in trying to mitigate coastal erosion as well, and those are all things that the dredge does. The challenges with the dredge, it's a high cost to running two pieces of heavy equipment with the associated booster pumps and piping. We've got enough piping to pipe sand 2 miles. And we did a project recently, not in Falmouth, but we did a project that piped the dredge spoils 2 miles to their ultimate disposal site, which is mind-boggling to me. So we're looking, anyway, that's the challenge, the high cost. Permitting challenges is really excruciating right now. You've got federal permitting agencies. I won't throw any federal agency right under the bus, but they own the bridges, if that gives you any idea who that might be.
You know them.
It's a challenge to try to get permits out of most of the federal agencies, and then you've got an associated sort of parallel permitting track with a bunch of the agencies, state agencies. So we are actually having the second Dredge Summit, second Dredge Summit coming up next week, the 15th, Thursday the 15th, and we're convening all of the permit granting authorities in one place again to try to talk about specifically how we can overcome some of the challenges that we've found with dredging. And then finally, the challenges, time of year restrictions. For those that don't know, time of year restrictions have to do mostly with reproductive cycles of various fish and crab, and as well as plover. So we have to thread these needles for every single project we do, and the time of year restrictions for say Falmouth might be a little bit different than the time of year restrictions for Harwich or the time of year restrictions for Chatham. So trying to walk through that itself is a full-time job, but so far they're doing a darn good job with that. So in terms of what we're looking to do over the next year, educate on the economic importance of maintaining navigable harbors and channels. I guess, is that my time up? Work with the Army Corps. I didn't mention them. Army Corps and the other permitting agencies to try to streamline the permitting process. And then finally, we're looking into purchasing a different type of dredge that allow us to be a little more nimble on some of the smaller but critical jobs that need to be done. And I think actually Falmouth is probably a really good example of that, because my understanding is that at least two of the jobs were fairly small, and we could have been a little more nimble in trying to get in and do that. We're looking at a long-armed excavator with a barge in order to get those types of jobs done. So finally, I'll just rattle off a few of the others. IT services, we provide IT services to 6 of the Cape's 15 towns. We do procurement services, we do regional procurement, and so that the towns don't have to go out and do procurements for a lot of the pretty routine, simple items that you would otherwise have to go out for. The Aqua Fund Septic Loan Program formerly was handled by the towns as the Septic Loan Program. Each town had a septic loan program, and I'm happy to report that we received a commitment of $13 million from the DEP revolving fund in order to re-nourish that revolving loan program. That's probably not nearly enough money. I can tell you, as more and more homeowners are tying into new sewer connections, or they are having to upgrade their Title V systems or cesspools up to code, it's very likely that we'll be looking for a lot more funding in order to cover the revolving loan, or the Aqua Fund loan program. So ongoing initiatives, I always refer to this as what I'm working on now, what's on my desk right now. AmeriCorps, we did learn last week that, actually a week ago Sunday, that the federal funds were being cut for the AmeriCorps program. And we have until the end of this week to quote-unquote exit the members. So federal funding makes up very roughly half of our program. County funding makes up the other half of the program. So,
sir, you are over your time. So if you could just wrap it up so that if the board needs to ask you anything, I'd like to give them a few minutes.
I certainly will. Well, that's really it. I just wanted to mention the AmeriCorps program did get the funding cut, but the county commissioners have decided to continue through the 3-month natural end of the program, and then we're going to regroup and talk about what we potentially can do for the next year. And so that where the county's going is the only other thing I was going to mention. Number one, we want to make sure that the county operations are sustainable. We've got a budget of roughly $26 million. I never in a million years thought I'd say this, but that's not a whole lot of money. We manage roughly $15 million worth of grant funding each year, and within all those revenues is how we get the job done. Our revenues derive mostly, some from assessments to the towns, but mostly from Registry of Deeds funds, and that is, unlike real estate tax, that can fluctuate dramatically year to year, month to month. So, but I'll emphasize again, we're driven by local communities' needs. Whatever Falmouth needs, if it's something that we can couple with another town, we are happy to provide that conduit and make sure that your services are being provided for in as cost-effective a way as possible. So,
questions from the board, Mr. Brown?
Mr. Dutton, thank you for coming today. I really am interested in your frustration with certain entities that don't get their work done and get projects off the desk. We have, our DPW director can tell you better than I, but I think it's been 7 or 8 years we've been trying to get a bridge permit to enhance coastal resiliency and provide freshwater flushing to one of our coastal bays. I personally think that the agencies should be removed from the process because they're not able to keep up. They go sit on their desk, they don't get to it, and the information gets stale. By the time they get around to looking at it, the other agency feels the same way. They're bouncing back and forth like a ping pong ball. I would love to see the county draft a letter to propose that there be some change to this management system. I think CZM should perhaps just do all coastal resiliency projects and streamline, because by the time we get approvals, conditions have changed. We're trying to get projects done, and it takes so long that it's not even, we're chasing our tails. So if you were to do that, maybe the towns, all the towns might sign a letter of support for it.
I think that's a perfect idea. I know that one of the, we're coming to the end of a study on permits specifically for the dredge. And one of the recommendations that will come out is to actually sort of plant a person within Army Corps that can manage our Cape Cod grants specifically. And so, doing on a state level something very similar is also a great idea. So I'll definitely bring that
Mr.
back.
Muscali?
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Dutton, for coming. Our representative, Dan Gesson on the Assembly of Delegates, got the resolution before them with respect to the housing crisis, and I know it was kicked up to the county commissioners. I wonder if you could speak as to where it is, and in particular, Mr. Gesson's thought about an advisory task force of some sort on a county level.
Absolutely. So the county commissioners and the assembly voted to ask me to create a working group. And right now, I'm about to meet with the other town administrators and managers just to go over the regional housing initiative that we funded 2 years ago as sort of a test case to see if that kind of professional expertise was needed by the Cape Towns. Clearly, the resounding response to that was yes. That regional approach, that regional housing office, if you will, is something that the towns appreciated and worked well with. And so we are going to go back out to bid looking for consulting services to continue that for the next 3 years. And so that's sort of the first step. My intent would be to create a working group made up of the folks that made up that original working group for the regional housing, mostly town affordable housing representatives or affordable housing staff, because those are the people that see the affordable housing issues most clearly within each town. And I don't pretend that we're going to be able to solve the quote unquote the affordable housing issue. But I think that if we can come out of that working group with some focus and some specific ideas on how we can solve the very specific things, then I think we'll be in good shape.
Thank you.
Mr. Zelinski?
Yeah, thanks for coming, Mr. Dutton. Could you do me a favor and restate the percentage of usable spoils you mentioned early? Because I know that we've had some challenges on the percentage that we had to house that weren't usable. Did you say somewhere up as of 98%? Or?
That's my recollection is that I can get you the exact figure, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 98%, and that includes all of the history of the dredge.
Okay, because I'm talking about us specifically, Doug. Remember at the at one of our workshops, one of the big holdups was where do we put the unusable spoils?
Because we've got some bays that haven't been done for so long.
Right.
They're really silted
But
up.
I was thinking, if that's only 2%, we got bigger problems if we can't house 2% of what. But I was looking at it as our waterways and not as a whole.
No, it's Cape-wide and the whole history of the dredge program.
Thank you.
Ms. Goldstone?
You mentioned, and thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for the update on AmeriCorps, because I was going to ask about that. You provided an impressive list of different water types that you mentioned. One you didn't mention that's an increasing challenge here on the Cape is ponds, and I'm wondering if that has come up with other towns and if you have thoughts on pond water testing.
So the freshwater initiative, my understanding is that that's been sort of managed at this point through the Cape Cod Commission, and on an ongoing basis, again, my understanding is that is going to probably expand. I think their focus, don't quote me, I think their focus was limited to maybe 50 ponds Cape-wide, and I think they're expanding that focus and will continue to collect data and to collect testing data in order to get a broader picture of what's affecting the ponds, and then ultimately make recommendations on best practices to each of the towns.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. CapeCod.gov is the website, and I encourage folks that don't have it to sign up. There's a monthly newsletter that goes out at the beginning of the month, and it sort of highlights a lot of the things that the county is doing. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to, Mr. Renshaw, do you want to kick this next one off?
Yes, Madam Chair. Peter McConerty, our DPW Director, is going to present. The request is for the board to consider designating this signage, new signage, proposed signage, as public safety usage. As you all know, it was, I think, 2 meetings ago, the board voted to move forward with accepting the grant funding that was provided by the Falmouth Road Race. Tonight's request, and Peter's going to give you the details, the building commissioner's office advised us that all of the other particular specifics with regards to the signage meet the sign code. It's the digital portion of the sign in those dimensions that would require a variance if Select Board tonight decided that it did not meet that public safety purpose. But I think we've got strong arguments to show that it does. And with that, I'll turn it over to Peter.
Thank you. Mr.
Good evening,
McConerty?
Good evening, Peter McConerty, Director of Public Works. I believe in your packets you have existing conditions plan of the Public Works facility. You also have a blow-up of the area where the sign will be going. It will be on our property on the side of the roadway. The existing sign is within the site. It's dilapidated and it's hard to read right now. It's non-repairable. So what we're looking to do, the original item onto this, as Town Manager had indicated, a couple of meetings back, we had came for a grant that was approved through Falmouth Road Race for in the amount of $25,000 for the digital portion of the sign. So when we came forward with this request, it's to ask for a variance for sign code 184-25, which is freestanding sign, and 184-26, which is illumination. If, as the town manager says, if the portion of the sign, which is the digital portion of the sign, which is 24 square feet, if that is considered exempt under 184-9 exemptions and exclusions, then the sign does meet the sign code. And I believe you also have some correspondence from the zoning enforcement officer for the signage. The sign is basically going to be used for public safety services. It's going to be for roadway detours, highway flushing, storms, emergency operations. It also will not just be for public works. The police department will also have access to it, and fire department, if things come up, Amber Alerts or whatever comes up for the police department. The intention of this, of the digital sign is for public safety and for purposes. It's not for other indications for the sign.
So if I understand you correctly, if it is for public safety, it does not need a variance?
So the total square footage of the sign, you're in this area, public use area, you're allowed 18 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
The sign address and the name of our building is 12 square feet. The digital portion of the sign is 24 square feet, so it brings it up to 36. If the 24 was considered public safety, in which we think it is, the zoning enforcement officer thinks it is, it would bring it down to 12 square feet, and it would be within the sign code, and we would not need a variance.
So maybe the board is being asked to affirm that it is used for public safety.
The digital portion of the sign, yes.
Thank you. Mr.
But
Miscali? And
my question would be, if we don't go along or approve that, then what are the next steps? What would you have to do in order to get it done?
Then we would be looking for a variance to 184-25 for the freestanding sign and 184-26.
You'd be coming back to us, basically.
We could do this tonight,
Yeah.
if it's 180. So the 184-26 is for animated signs. Typically, animated signs, when you have digital signs, the signs will flash, it'll show whatever in the background. The size of our screen, the speed of the roadway, we're looking to have one single sign. So it's seconds when people come around that corner from Goodwill Park to go past our sites. We wanted to have one solid sign and not be flashing. So it will not be animated, it'll just be one. It will be lit, but it'll be digital lit. So that's the reasoning for the 26. It's not going to be animated. And the 25 is just because it's 36 square feet.
Well, I mean, I'm fine that it's public safety.
Madam Chair, if I could,
Okay,
just
I'll
for
go to
clarification.
Mr. Renshaw and then
it's-
down to Ms. Goldstone.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
It's to Select Board Member Muskelly's question. So it was late last week. We had prepared the agenda packet with the request for the variance to those two sections. It was late last week after the packet was posted that the zoning compliance officer consulted with us and mentioned the fact that, by the way, if the Select Board is inclined to affirm that this is a public safety use, then this exemption would apply. So to answer your question, we were prepared to go the other route, getting the variance. I believe this is perhaps an easier path if the board is persuaded that this is a public safety purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Ms. Goldstone?
I would just say that, so as I'm reading the exceptions clause, signs erected or posted and maintained for public safety and welfare or pursuant to any government function, which is the Department of Public Works. And so I'd be happy to make the motion to approve, would just like to expand it beyond public safety to public safety and welfare and pursuant to the function of the DPW to give DPW the flexibility in how that sign is used, and so this doesn't come back to us that X message was not actually public safety.
I'd happily second that, as
Okay.
described.
I would move approval of the Department of Public Works request that the content of the embedded digital message board portion of the sign is considered to be for public safety and welfare and pursuant to the function of the Department of Public Works, and therefore meets sign code 184-9 exceptions.
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Mr. Brown?
One question, not actually related to the sign itself, but is it possible that these similar alerts could be mirrored on the DPW website or on the page?
Yeah, the programs are not connected together. Our intention is, for instance, when we put out a rave alert, if there's a water main break, a service break, to have it reflected on both, so you'll see it on both signs. They're
Right.
not connected, but internally, we should be able to, that's our goal, we'll be able to have it come out on both sides, rave alert and
That
on the
would be
sign.
great if it's in both places, because not everybody's going to go down Gifford, but if they go down Gifford and see it, and they think, oh, I better check on that when I get home.
And just in additional, so the sign will be connected to the building's generator, so if there's a loss of power, the generator runs to run the fuel facility, it's connected, so that it will have power and it'll be running.
And one last question, I'm sure you've already know this, but it just looked like it was kind of close to the road. The sight lines are okay there?
So with Public Works, we're a little bit different than a regular parking facility. When you think of a parking facility, you might think of a car or a truck pulling out. Public Works, we have an excavator that has a 10-foot boom. We have a front-end loader that comes out with forks. If we have to be careful placing that sign because the piece of equipment will be in the roadway before they can see up and down the roadway. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our digital mobile signs and we're going to put it out in that area, and we're just going
Practice.
to get it to the right location we're going to have up for our operators that it'll work.
I see, so this is just a general location, and you're going to work out the details?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Renshaw, D.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board tonight is being asked to consider a request from Falmouth Art Market for a waiver of the special event permit fee for the art market at Marina Park on Thursdays from June 26th to October 9th of this year. Madam Chair and Select Board, the applicant submitted a letter requesting the waiver of special permit event fees. That letter, email is in your packet. The applicant donates all vendor fees to the Cultural Council. Revenue helps, as you know, provide grants to local artists and supports cultural events in the community. Madam Chair and Board, in accordance with the approved fee schedule, the permit fee for this event is calculated based on a formula, which you've seen before. I thought it was important to mention that over the course of the previous 8 years, Select Board has voted to waive the permit fee for the past 3 years, from 2022 through 2024, and to reduce the fee to $300 in prior years, 17 through 21. And I believe the applicant is here tonight to present.
I'm Sarah
and ask
Glover. I am the new coordinator of the Falmouth Artisan Market. and here to request if you would waive the fee.
Could you speak a little bit
Yeah.
louder?
Oh,
How
yeah.
about if we
I'm
do
short.
it this way? You have the request. How about questions from the board or concerns about the request?
Uh,
Mr. Brown?
I don't have a concern about the reducing the fee, but what I'm wondering about is the lawn maintenance over there, and it's not a curveball question to you, it's just
Yeah.
to the town manager.
Curveball question to the town manager?
Curveball, yes,
Thank
it
you,
is, I
thank you.
guess it is. It didn't occur to me to ask you in advance.
No,
but-
no, so that's a great question, because I know that's been a concern over the years for a lot of these events. I'm not aware of any particular complaints. I know Greg Frazier monitors, and did this go before the special event committee?
It did.
Yep.
Yep.
And those things are vetted, Select Board Member Brown, so in my opinion, tonight, I don't think it's a huge concern. We'll
Yep.
continue to monitor it, and if there are any issues, we'll address those as they
Just
come up.
Maybe we need like a policy for, if it's a rainy day, you gotta park in the parking lot or something.
I was just going to add, I do believe we have an ability to cancel for rain. So the onus is on the Parks Department to issue that communication in advance of the event so that the event can be canceled.
If I could just say, if it's raining, we don't have the market.
Okay, good.
Any other questions of the applicant from the board?
No?
No, I think this is a great arrangement and happy to see the funds going directly to the Cultural Council.
Yep.
Is that a motion, Ms. Goldstone?
I would move approval of the request from Falmouth Art Market to waive the special event permit fee for the art market at Marina Park from June 26 to October 9, 2025.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Muscali, you are up. You submitted a draft, because we had talked about a select
We
board
had.
handbook back at our workshop in December, and you submitted a draft. Did everyone have an opportunity to look at it?
Yes.
Okay. Would anyone like to make any comments or suggestions? Mr. Brown?
I did notice one thing I thought might be missing was the responsibilities of the chair, and I wonder if it should include engaging the public, answering questions via email or otherwise.
I mean, I view this process as being somewhat over a period of time. So I think, the purpose that Member Goldstone and I had agreed to draft something. Admittedly, it got a little bit sidetracked, but I wanted to get something before the board. I think the process should be to look at it, closely, and, we'll have another discussion with a new board. More than likely, that'll be in place after the May 20th election. And, have that board also have an opportunity to look at it and make some suggestions. The question is that once I started looking into it, although I know it was suggested that we have a handbook, there is some consideration that a handbook might not be necessary, that we have a pretty good onboarding packet that's available, that mentions a lot of the things that I think are, in the handbook. I took...
Committee handbook?
Well, no, we have an onboarding packet that has, 10 or 12 tabs and things that new members should be looking at. I think it's important that we look at orientation for new board members, and that's something that, that I beefed that up with. I took a couple of the slides from Mr. Sinnett's presentation back in December and actually just repeated them in the draft. So, I think I'd call upon any members to, edit it, send me suggested edits, but I think it's going to be, a bit of a process before we get to a final product, whether we call it a handbook or policies or whatever we want to call it.
I think that, Mr. Brown, to your point about the chair, I think there are times when it depends on the nature of the email and what is in the email as to when Anybody can respond. And when responding and reply all, I think we need to talk about that. I think that needs to be put in here. I did go through it carefully, and I do have some suggestions, Mr. Muscali. I don't know if you want me to go through them or if you want me to just give them to you. I think it's a really good start. I thought it had some good bones, but I did make some comments. For example, on page 5, when you talk about FSB members will vote according to their convictions, will avoid bias, I think adding some language about the conflict of interest law, moving in there might be a good idea. So I just made some notes, and I'm happy to give them to you. I also would like to see a little bit more development of, and I know there's something in here about staying in our lane in terms of being board members in our relationship with the town manager. I'd like to see that developed a little bit more. But I agree it's kind of ongoing, but I think it's a great start. Ms. Goldstone?
Yeah, I would agree. It's great to have a first draft to begin the discussion. As I was reading through it, felt myself hearing town council's voice in my head, in that a lot of what is in here is collating what is in the charter, what is in law, what is in other places, and wanting to make sure that we avoid having a situation where the select board handbook is restating essentially law or another document, and the need to, if that changes, make sure we propagate through. And would love to see the handbook go more deeply in the direction of putting on paper some of the things you were mentioning, going more deeply into things that are not simply roles and responsibilities as stated in the charter, but go more into often unstated kind of standard operating procedures. I think the code of ethics or code of conduct is a really good thing to have in there, so that it's more about an understanding of expectations that go beyond what is stated in the charter. And I definitely agree that an ongoing conversation, so that this is a document that reflects a consensus of the board, is really important.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So was this purely organic, or was this modeled after someone, partially someone else's handbook?
I've looked at a couple of different ones. Surprisingly few towns that I could see actually have an official handbook.
So the ones you looked at, did you also check their charter to see how their charter differs from ours?
No, but I looked to see if this was consistent with our charter, and I believe it is.
Well, ours is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything else?
I appreciate your work in getting this to us. It's a good start.
Thank you.
And I would ask that any board members send their edits to Mr. Muscali. I'm more than willing to give you mine, and if you have any questions
However you want.
about mine,
Sure.
just let me know. Anything else on the potential handbook? Okay, that was quick. All right.
Basketball game's on.
Celtics. Okay, Mr. Renshaw, discuss the impacts of the proposed mass development study to examine the feasibility of moving the Cape Cod Gateway Airport to Joint Base Cape Cod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So back in mid-February, my office, I was contacted directly by Mr. Greg Durbin, who I believe is in the audience this evening. Greg lives in Ballymead neighborhood subdivision. He indicated to me some concern about, and at that time it was just beginning to hit the newspapers. I think the Cape Cod Times ran a story in late January with regards to a January 30th meeting of the Barnstable Town Council. The council at that time, on a 7-5 vote, directed that a letter be sent to Mass Development, and this is part of Mass Development. As you all know, they're doing a master planning function at Joint Base Cape Cod. The request of the Barnstable Town Council was that as part of this master planning process, that Mass Development do a feasibility study for locating what was referred to as a civilian and military operations airport at Joint Base Cape Cod. In effect, moving the Cape Cod Gateway Airport, the Hyannis Airport, to Joint Base Cape Cod. The concerns expressed by Mr. Durbin and some others subsequent to that initial email in mid-February were many. Traffic issues on the ground, traffic issues in the air, just flight operations in general, the additional noise from flight operations over not only the Ballymead neighborhood subdivision, but also the general area. Were concerns expressed by Mr. Durbin and some others. I attempted to gather some more information through Mass Development, but as of today, I haven't been able to get much information as far as the status of that request by Barnstable Town Council to include a feasibility study of, again, combining or creating this joint civilian-military airport at the base. So I don't know at this stage kind of where they are at with incorporating that into the feasibility study or the master planning study. But I wanted to have a discussion to make the select board here aware, and you likely already were, that it was at least being discussed, and likely some of the impacts and some of the residents' concerns about those impacts on our quality of life here in Falmouth, if that was ever to come to fruition. And there's some information that Mr. Durbin had provided in regards to just kind of put it in perspective, so to speak, some relative information. The current runways at Cape Cod Gateway Airport, 5,425 feet and 5,253 feet. The T.F. Green Airport in Providence, Rhode Island, 8,700 feet and 6,081 feet, those two main runways. Joint Base Cape Cod, by comparison, 9,500 feet and 8,000 feet, the two main runways. And Logan International, 10,083 feet and 10,000 feet, plus some other obviously shorter runways. So again, it speaks to if this were to come to fruition as a result of this feasibility study, and I understand, I wasn't here at the time, but I understand this has been talked about in the past. If it were to come to fruition, there's a real concern by Mr. Durbin and some others in the community that this could create kind of a Logan South kind of an environment and atmosphere. And I've managed in other communities that had much smaller airports that increased flight traffic and flight operations, and it did result in pretty significant negative impacts on quality of life, the flyovers and just the constant air traffic. So again, wanted, for the purposes of tonight's discussion, make the board aware and allow you to ask any questions. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of answers from the perspective of Mass Development in terms of where they're at currently with the process. And ask Mr. Durbin to make himself available through the chair to maybe make any comments that he would like the board to know as well.
Would you like to address the board, Mr. Durbin?
Yeah, I can make just...
Come up to the podium and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I just go over this, real quick, as Mike mentioned.
Just introduce yourself into the mic.
Yeah, sorry, Greg Dubin, resident of Ballymead. Only 3.5 years, but I hope I can still address the board. Yeah, concerns on ground traffic. There may be some significant construction if this goes ahead as a civilian airport. You got baggage handling, maybe a new terminal, parking areas. So if that construction happens, it'll probably be after Sagamore Bridge construction, but it might be done in parallel with Bourne Bridge construction. And that would really impact our neighborhood. It's already a tough intersection, 28 and 151, and getting out of our neighborhood is already a challenge. So I'm concerned about construction traffic, and then given the runway lengths, much larger jets could land there than Hyannis or Providence. And when you have a plane with several hundred people coming in, there's traffic, obviously generated from that. Noise from air traffic, not only, quiet enjoyment of our life in Ballymead. One of the runways is oriented, to the southwest towards Ballymead neighborhood, but also the beaches. You've got, all of the Buzzards Bay beaches may see an impact from large aircraft traffic. And then the runway length is obviously the big concern. Whatever might be said in the study, or the limited, or whatnot, if it's there, then it might become, well, it started as an emergency. If Boston has some weather problems or whatnot, well, divert to Joint Base, and then it becomes, well, seasonal air traffic we could allow, and then you climb up to, it using its full capability, which is jets with several hundred passengers. And obviously, air traffic safety is a concern. We're all aware of the events in Washington, which are continuing to evolve. When you have joint operations of military and civilian aircraft, especially with Coast Guard, because when they got to go, they got to go. It's an emergency. There's other National Guard installations, which I consider more of a planned exercises and whatnot. Coast Guard dispatching of rescue services is going to need to clear airspace immediately. I think it's just more dangerous in that situation. So, and obviously, personally, it's a question of degradation of property values. Not even if it is going to happen or not. It's just the fact that there's a study that it might happen. Now this might impact that. So.
Any questions, Mr. Brown?
So I would share that the potential for increased volume of bringing people to the Cape, I think we're getting close to our limit. I don't think we need to find new ways to bring more people here. I think that an environmental concern is a serious concern. I know that there's been environmental problems at the Barnstable Airport, and maybe the town council is realizing it might not be the best thing for them to be hosting an airport, and they're trying to get rid of it. I don't know. But I just know that they potentially have PFAS contamination there from testing their firefighting foam in the woods, and I'd be concerned about the management of it at the base and the development. We just had objections to a gun range, which would be much less impactful than an airport. I think the environmental concerns and the conflict with the military mission, it's a secure facility. What are we going to do, break off part of it and make it open to the public? It just seems like a conflict there. So I see a few problems with it, in addition to the volume and the airspace concerns.
Do you remember the history when this came up last time? Do you remember that?
Not really, but it
Okay.
didn't get too far as far as I remember.
I was just wondering. Ms. Goldstone and then Mr. Muscali?
I would say I share some of the concerns already surfaced and have others of my own, just given the lack of proximity to public transportation or services, how it would impact housing on the base. There's any number of questions, but I guess the relevant questions at this point are whether or not, first of all, a letter from one town council is sufficient to actually trigger the feasibility study by mass development, and then which of these sorts of questions that feasibility study might actually address, and whether that would consider, that feasibility study in this context would also consider all of the other potential projects that are kind of in some stage of formulation on the base as it's being, how this question would be handled relative to all of the other things being considered, right? Because if it's taken out of context from the various other potential uses, it could be really problematic. So I guess I'll just kind of process questions with where we actually are, but it sounds like may or may not have those answers from mass development.
Yes, so Madam Chair, and Select Board Member Goldstone, I was hoping, as I said earlier, to have at least some early answers to what the status is. And in full disclosure, when you read, and I have a copy of the actual, a draft of the letter that was signed by the president of the town council, it talks about a feasibility study and kind of it lists all of those things that would be, they're looking at economic impacts. It never specifically mentions the movement of a particular airport, in this case Cape Cod Gateway, but it's the newspaper article I referred to, the Cape Cod Times, the comments, the discussions that occurred by the town council on January 30th talk about this airport, Hyannis, Barnstable, Gateway is not going anywhere. So it's pretty clear that that's what the focus was. But unfortunately, I don't have answers to those great questions about would one community's interest in a feasibility study be enough to trigger a mass development feasibility study or include that portion in a master planning study. I don't know. Our questions have gone unanswered, but I'll continue to try to get some information out of mass development.
I'll go to Mr. Muscali and then Mr. Zelinski.
Well, certainly, I share everyone's concerns about the project and the feasibility study. I don't think we're in a position at this point to necessarily oppose anything, though, as far as a letter of opposition, if you will, or opposing the feasibility study. I don't think we know enough at this point. If we were going to do anything, I think we'd register some of the concerns that have been mentioned by Mr. Dubin and members of the board, and say, well, we're going to follow this closely to see how it's going and take a position at some point in the future. But as far as taking a position in opposition, I don't think we have enough information at this point.
Yes, and Madam Chair and Select Board Member Muscali, I think in the department town manager recommendation, I said no formal action is being requested. Working with Madam Chair and Mr. Durbin, I was clear that tonight was just for discussion. I did include some language in there that I would take direction, but I agree we don't have enough information. I was hopeful again to have a little bit more status update as far as where that request was at this point, but I don't have that. So I would agree, just a discussion and then continue to monitor and follow it.
I think it's really important that the board be aware that this is happening, whatever this is, and that we need to stay alert and follow it.
Directly impact.
I'm going to go to Mr. Zelinski, Mr. Brown, Ms. Goldstone.
Unfortunately, I respectfully disagree with Mr. Muscali and the town manager on this. I think we do have enough information. My wife and I, since we were children, grew up in that neighborhood, and we've watched the water degradation. We've watched all the things they've done to clean it. Just the amount of fuel that would be hauled into that area, and just for refueling, it would be a nightmare. We've spent my whole adult life watching them try to clean that mess up. And I would be, it's a good thing I'm not going to be on the board, because I would be stomping my feet as a no all the way through. And that's with the greatest respect for both of you and your opinions, but I've been a hard no from the get-go.
A hard no of even moving forward
Damn
with
right.
having an airport at JBCC.
Damn right.
Just clarifying. Mr. Brown?
And I would feel similar. I don't think I really want to just take no action. I know we don't have to take an action, but I would like to send a letter highlighting concerns about environment and the other military mission conflict and potential impacts to the Falmouth community. It doesn't have to be a clear letter of opposition, but just let them know that we're paying attention and that we have concerns. So it's not a formal letter to oppose, it's just that you've got our attention and these are some of our concerns.
So it's not a letter about the feasibility study, it's a letter about concerns that Falmouth residents have with having an airport at JBCC. Is that correct?
About the potential for it.
Yeah.
I guess I was going to say the exact same thing as Member Brown, but perhaps different. I would actually, I think a letter about the feasibility study and frankly about the fact that we haven't been able to get answers and making it clear that there are multiple towns that would be impacted, that we need the information about the feasibility study, that we have any number of concerns about the potential projects and that those need to be addressed in this process. Whatever that process, and maybe there is no process because maybe one town is not enough to trigger the feasibility study, but we need to know that because our town is potentially impacted by this.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Muscali?
No, what I was suggesting, I think, was the same thing that Member Brown was suggesting, that we register those concerns, list them, and let them know we're watching and interested and going to have a seat at the table because we are very much impacted. The most impacted town on the Cape, probably. Born as well.
Although we're not voting, is there consensus to develop a letter from this board to ask the town manager to craft that and bring it back to us to send out?
Outlining the concerns in general and respectfully requesting additional detail as far as the status of Barnstable's request. Sure.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Yep,
Does that make sense?
Not opposition, but just expressing the concerns of the board and then status information on the Barnstable request.
Okay.
And
So we
hopefully we'll
have
get some
given-
more information.
Given
Yep.
him direction?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that makes
fine.
sense?
Absolutely.
And maybe then we'll get more information and we'll know better what we might take a position.
I would agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will go through the consent agenda. If any member of the board would like to hold an item, please notify me. Licenses, consider a vote to approve an application for a Sunday entertainment license, Buzzards Bay Coalition, MBL Swope Center, 5 North Street, Woods Hole, Sunday, 10/5/25, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Administrative orders. I'm going to hold number 1. Number 2, consider a vote to approve a request for a variance sign code 184-32 off-premise signs, Buzzards Bay Coalition, Buzzards Bay Watershed Ride, event signs in Woods Hole, Sunday, 10/5/25. Accept the FY25 wellness grant in the amount of $600 from Cape Cod Municipal Health Group to the Human Resources Department grant account. With our thanks. Accept the following donations from local businesses to be used as raffle prizes at the annual Health and Benefits Fair. A $100 gift card to the Island Queen, 2 $50 gift cards to Crab Apple's Restaurant, 4 $25 gift cards to Jim's Clam Shack, 2 $25 gift cards to Gelfie's Candies, and kitchen faucet from Ferguson. And again, thank you to these local businesses. Consider a vote to appoint inspectors of animals, Scott McGann, Catherine Poquette, Chloe Erisy, and Molly Mason. Consider a vote to authorize the Marine Environmental Services to file the 2025 Seaport Economic Council grant application.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda with the exception of Administrative Order Number 1 held by the chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay,
Brief comment, thank you to the town manager and staff for providing the additional information requested as of the last meeting about the Marine and Environmental Services grant.
thank you. Okay, number 1, in talking with the town manager, we need more information. Do you want to go over this,
So
Mr. Renshaw,
real briefly,
quickly?
so DPW director and I had a conversation this afternoon, and I asked him to go down and take a look at the site. There's some concern with regards to the jointly owned pole petition of the number of utility poles that would be positioned in a relatively small area. I'll give you the number. It's 8 in a 250-foot segments of Main Street. We felt that was excessive, so we're going to sit down with Eversource to try to get some more information before the board is asked to approve this thing. Because once it's approved, as you all know, it's going to be hard to take it back. So we just want to.
8
We're going
seems
to
like
get
an awful lot to
Going
me.
to get them to try to reduce the number of utility poles in some way.
So we will table number 1 until we receive more information and a recommendation from the town manager.
And 556, is that the new development across from Betsy's?
Liberty Green.
Liberty
Oh, it's
Green.
Liberty Green, oh.
Yes. Okay, so we are going to review and consider a vote to approve the minutes of the meeting's public session, August 22, 2022, August 27, 2022, and April 22, 2025. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the meeting notes?
Yes, exactly, as I recall them.
Is that a motion, Mr. Brown?
I would move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board?
Well, I mean, I wasn't here in 2022, nor do I think Member Goldstone was.
But you don't have to be.
But I
Yes.
understand that the advice from council is
Yes.
that all we need to do is be comfortable with the process and that the process was handled properly in approving minutes, so I'm prepared to move in favor of it as well.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Town Manager Supplemental Report, Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two, I think, important updates I wanted to give you, both pertaining to Falmouth Fire Rescue. I'll start with, I think, maybe the biggest update in regards to the Hatchville Fire Station. As you know, several months ago, we had some issue with regards to the infamous four-fold doors. We worked with Tower Construction, the general contractor, to get that issue resolved. The doors, I received an update just last week from our OPM. The doors have actually, the fabrication has been complete. Door Engineering Incorporated out of Minnesota, I believe, is the firm that fabricated the new doors. They're to be delivered this week. May 7th is actually the delivery date. And I'm told that the installer will get to work almost immediately. It's about a month and a half installation timeline. So, based upon that information, we feel we're going to have the four-fold door issue resolved in a month and a half, 2 months. Peter and I had a chance to sit down with Chief Smith to talk about some of the other kind of issues related to the successful opening of Hatchville. As you all know, fire rescue and our emergency communications center and police, in a certain respect, have been dealing with the implementation and launch of a new computer-aided dispatch or CAD system. That has also not been without problems. It's been a huge lift, a huge effort from IT as well, our IT department, but we feel confident that we're going to get that new CAD system up and running by early June. In addition to the station alerting system, which is exclusively the fire rescue side, alerting the stations and sending apparatus. So with all that being said, Peter and I last week had a chance to sit down with Chief Smith, and we received a pretty favorable staffing trend from Chief Smith as he's looking over the past few months. You know, we're graduating firefighter recruits from the academy. Our injured on duty numbers are getting much, much better. People are coming back to work. So all that being said, if the staffing scenario continues to remain positive, I'm projecting to be in a position to open the new Hatchville Fire Station sometime in early to mid-July. Again, based upon all of these things coming together at the right time, the new four-fold doors being installed without issue, the implementation and the launch of the CAD system, the station alerting system, and the very important big piece, the staffing model, that picture remaining positive trend, the average daily number of staffing being constant.
And just to clarify, this is staffing a 6-station model?
Yes, 6-station model.
Thank you.
That's an important clarification or part of this. Based upon Select Board direction to me a year and a half ago, operating a 6-station model.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Mr. Brown?
Little beyond the scope, but maybe you can answer. Are we going to need to renegotiate for 18 at start of shift to be ready to open?
No. As it appears right now, we are not going to. That was a consideration at one point. We were having some initial discussions. We feel that there's another model, staffing model, utilizing existing staffing from Station 5 to move over. So we can meet the contractual obligations to have 2 firefighters, 2 staff members on an apparatus, on a piece of equipment. That's by contract, based upon that average daily staffing at the beginning of the shift. We feel comfortable, if nothing changes and that trend continues as it's been the past few months, we would not have to go to an 18 minimum staffing model.
Okay.
And negotiate that. Did I capture that correctly?
Are you, anything else from your report?
I do have one other
Okay.
thing, sorry. Again, fire rescue related. Back at town meeting back in November of 2023, as you all may recall, town meeting approved the appropriation of about $80,000 for the West Falmouth Fire Station improvements was the category. That included repair of the rear stairwell, which was accomplished. And I think everybody's happy with that project and the way it turned out. But perhaps more importantly, it involved a engineering structural feasibility study to look at perhaps adding an additional bay on the side of the current building that would allow for, be constructed so a fire engine and apparatus could occupy the new bay, and an ambulance perhaps could be positioned in the current bay. So we 2 weeks ago, myself and the DPW director and the fire chief met with an engineering firm, Gale and Associates. Gale has a lot of experience in this area, and they gave us a proposal that I recently signed off. Right now the contract documents are being drawn up, so I hope to launch that feasibility study with regards to expanding West Falmouth Station 4 in the next few weeks.
Great, thank you for that.
Good news.
Appreciate it.
Really good news. Mr. Muscali?
Just one other item, if I may. The calendar that we voted on for future meetings, I did not notice at the time, but after our meeting on May 19th, we will not meet again, or we're not scheduled to meet again until, I believe it's June 16th. And I've spoke with Mr. Renshaw about the possibility of getting another meeting in there, possibly June 5th, I think, or June 6th. We're going to have two, how many new members are we going to have? No,
3.
Possibly 3, but probably.
Possibly 3.
In any event, I've asked him to look to possibly schedule a meeting at that time. I mean, I'll look at
The 6th is a Friday night.
No, whatever, I don't have my calendar
I
here.
think it's maybe June 3rd,
No.
the first Tuesday of the month, I think is what the discussion we were having. Is that?
That would be June 2nd.
Okay, could you send that date to Mr.
Third.
Renshaw, and we can consider that on May 19th?
Yeah,
Adding a date?
absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll bring a revised calendar that was adopted by the board previously, and we'll insert that for discussion.
The problem was that the Mondays, both of which were religious holidays,
Yes.
and that's why we didn't schedule them on those
Yes.
Mondays, and then the next available Monday was June 16th.
Right, so if you want to do an off day,
It
then
would
just
be like June 3rd, I think we would be looking at.
send it to
Yeah.
Mr. Renshaw, and
Yep.
he said he could update the calendar, and then you can vote it on the 19th.
Good.
Not
Thank
a bad
you.
idea.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, how about select board reports? Ms. Goldstone?
I attended the Freshwater Plant Advisory Committee meeting, and I think everyone should be aware they had some lively discussion about possible fertilizer regulation, fertilizer ban, but not really going to the extent of ban, and talking about how something like that might move forward. So I think an important discussion to stay abreast of.
Thank you. Any other select board reports?
I'll be going to
Mr.
visit
Brown?
Nantucket again Friday with the Cape Canaveral Municipal Leaders Group, and we're going to be checking out the compost facility and getting a better understanding of how they manage their waste over there.
Thank you. Any other reports? Mr. Muscali?
No, ma'am.
I'm just going to ask you
I'm
again.
happy to make a motion to adjourn.
There you go. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The Steamship Authority is a proud partner in many Falmouth community events, including town meeting coverage. And for good reason. Not only do we have a terminal and offices here, about 1/3 of our employees call Falmouth their home. We always work hard to serve our neighbors, friends, and the traveling public. We recently put 7 new electric buses into service at our Falmouth parking lots. Soon we'll be adding new vessels to our fleet, continuing work on our energy-efficient Woods Hole terminal buildings, and adding solar panels at our largest parking lot. At the Steamship Authority, we're serving the islands. And you.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hosting services for FCTV.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server co-location, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their #1 goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.